the Stu's Wrestling Podcast.
You're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast, established 2019. Direct from the North Wales coast, his verbal skills definitely outweigh his wrestling ability. It's time for British Wrestling's sharpshooter, your host, Stu Palmer.
We are back. We are back for episode 142 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast. And have I got a huge guest for you today, all the way from America currently, but he is a Belfast native, former WWE star, Killian Dain, but you will know him most notably now as Big Damo. How's it going, man? Great to have you on.
Very good. Thank you very much. It's very sunny here today in Florida, so I'm avoiding the sun at all costs.
Now, Damo, there's two huge matches because you are coming back to the UK. You're coming back to the homeland. So I'd like to open with, obviously, you've got Rev Pro firstly, and you've got Mr. Will Ospreay. This coming Friday in Cardiff. So, yeah, just your thoughts ahead of the match before you travel here on Thursday.
Oh, absolutely. This weekend, I'm covering three of the home nations: Wales, Ireland, and then England. So, doing my very best to get everything in. But I'm looking forward to start kicking off with Will Ospreay. I've known Will for maybe a good 8 years or so, and he's just exploded. He went from being a really interesting part of a card, a very unique style, to being a must-watch across the world. He's absolutely become one of the very best. His success has just been mind-blowing to watch, to be honest. I've always kept an eye on what he's done because he's one of those fellas who when I first would watch him, I'd be like, how is he able to do these things? And then eventually you're like, wow, he is literally the best at doing these things on the planet. So, you're putting him up there with people like Pac and Ricochet and stuff like that. And then maybe he's got to that point where he's better than all of them. So it's amazing how he's developed himself. Now he's becoming a more heavyweight version of himself, which is, he's just completely, developing his style into something special that maybe in 10, 20 years, 30 years, people will be studying him. So I'm very much excited to get in the ring with him. Listen, it's brilliant watching how he's developed, how he's became who he is. And it'll be incredible. We've only ever wrestled in a 6-man. So this will be the first time in a singles, and we're going to do the very best to blow the roof off in Cardiff.
Amazing. Yeah, just to see, like you say, just to reiterate what you said, how far he's come. A lot of people, he's just a high flyer. He's so multifaceted in there now. And I'd even go as far to say his promos. I think his promos, he's really worked on his promos, which that's a hard part to do, isn't it? It's just, it's not just you guys in the ring and what you have to do in the ring. It's getting yourselves over verbally as well, isn't it?
Well, I think a lot of people maybe disregarded promo skills when the internet started getting bigger, and you were able to put up highlight reels and you were able to put up cool matches and stuff like that. But the truth is, like, once people have seen cool moves, then they need a bit more. And Will's very smart. He's been able to draw people in now with his words, which is incredible because it's definitely a criticism people would have had towards him, 5 years ago, whatever else. But now he's like, you know what? No, I'm good at this too. And it's perfect because like that's, as you get older, these are the more important parts. It's the storytelling aspect and everything else. He's got that in ring. Now he's got it outside the ring, and it's going to prove that he's unstoppable and he can do whatever he wants with his career. I love it.
I was going to ask you as well, have you wrestled at the Tram Shed in Cardiff prior? I'm assuming you have.
7 years ago, yeah. Wow. I was there with ICW, one of the ICW tours many years ago. I was in the Tram Shed. I think I might have been in the Tram Shed twice. I'm doing my best to remember. Those were interesting tours. But no, I believe I was there. I think I wrestled Bram, but I'll have to double check that. But my memory of Cardiff, the crowd was outstanding. I remember, I think it was maybe I stood the second time or first or second time there. I'd wrestled in Wales before, but never. I don't think I'd wrestled in Cardiff. So it was great getting there with ICW because they were so hot at the time. Incredible roster, what we were doing. So it was amazing being there and bringing the entire crew and with some of the brilliant Welsh wrestlers who were there at the time. So no, it's brilliant. It's been 7 years though. That when I really think about it, a lot's changed in that time.
Absolutely.
So I'm bringing a lot more experience of my own to Cardiff this time round. I'm going to be in there against a hell of an opponent. So yeah, there's a lot to be excited about for Friday.
Has it been nice doing the independents? I'm going to obviously say about your defence for Progress on Sunday, but yeah, just being back on the independents, because I know you're on it for such a long time prior to WWE. So yeah, just being back in that environment and doing that, how's that been for you?
Well, I get to choose my own schedule, so it's bloody brilliant. So for 6 years, it was yes sir, no sir, and you're literally doing what you're told. So now, I get to choose where I go, when I go. I could say yes, no, and whatever to any requests. So yeah, I'm loving it right now. Yeah, so honestly, this last year especially has been great. Coming out of COVID, there was a bunch of shows in different parts of the UK, but certain parts of the UK were really struggling. Whereas now everything seems to be really taking off. So I'm delighted, actually. As I say, first time back in Wales, in so long. And then I'm even going to be back in Scotland and stuff like that shortly. So, I'm delighted because being able to choose my own path and be able to help who I want to help, be able to work for who I want to work for, and to be honest, get to wrestle who I want to wrestle. So, this Friday's a typical example. I've wanted to wrestle Ospreay for a good couple of years. He's been insane, but I couldn't do that because I was contracted to the WWE. So now I get a chance to go in there with one of the hottest properties in the world, and it's a great testament to independent wrestling right now that they're able to bring both of us in from two different parts of the world and have this killer match. And fair play to Rev Pro. We're going to do our very best to let everybody in Wales have the time of their life.
It is a true David versus Goliath battle. And moving on to a second David and Goliath battle this weekend. You are defending your Progress Atlas Championship. You've made 2 defenses prior, obviously. You beat Luke Jacobs for the title last September, but you are taking on another hot commodity on the British scene. It's Mr. Ricky Knight Jr. for Progress this Sunday. So yeah, what are your thoughts about that prior to Sunday?
Well, first off, listen, what Progress have been doing has been outstanding. I've had an incredible year with Progress. We've been all over the country. And for me, it's one of the highlights of coming back to the UK is being able to see that incredible roster and the incredible team there, Progress. But listen, with Ricky Knight Jr., he's one of the ones who I've kept a good eye on because we had a match together a couple of years ago when I first got released, and I thought he was good. I thought there was something there. And then we wrestled in Dublin about a month ago, and he has just improved tenfold. It was outrageous. It's almost like there's somebody else in there. Because I thought, I genuinely didn't think he would be I didn't think he would be this advanced at 22, 23 years old. I thought it would take another couple of years before he'd be where he is right now. But I'm delighted to be wrong. I think he's a stunning wrestler. There's just a confidence there that I definitely didn't have at his age. So I'm thinking, what's he going to be like when he's my age? He could be anything he wants. He could be anywhere in the world. He could wrestle for he'd probably wrestle for all the companies, to be honest, by that time. And you know what? Fair play to him. So yes, I'm very excited to bring that battle to Progress because we tore the roof off in Dublin. It was one of my favorite matches since I've came back onto the independents. It was his first time at OTT, and listen, I'd be amazed if he's not there, on a regular basis because he put all on the line and it was unbelievable. But when the Atlas title's on the line, he's going to see a different part of Damo, and I'm very excited to get him into Progress. Very excited to get him into London, and we're going to do the very best to tear each other apart and give everybody a show because Progress has done a hell of a job to, especially coming out of COVID, they've done a hell of a job to get people in the door. And I'm very excited to reward everybody who's been coming for us because, listen, I understand the cost of living and everything else. The UK has been nuts this last while. So for people to be coming out on a regular basis to see us is outstanding. And I can't say it enough, really. When I think back to myself and my family and everything else, and how we all tried to navigate through these times, like how much we are thankful, we are appreciative that people are coming out as much as they are. So, listen, like, we're going to do our very best to blow the roof off in London.
There you are with the goal there, Damo, ahead of Sunday. So yeah, a huge defence. And also, I'd like to move topics, just change tact a little bit. We're going to come away from wrestling just for a brief time. And it's just to talk about two charities within Belfast that, you're a big patron of. And I know, you think a lot of both of these charities. We've got Wellbeing Suicide Prevention and we've got Welcome Organisations for the Homeless. Two huge charities there in Belfast. People really are struggling, aren't they, with both things across the world. So many people can gravitate to problems, because they've had problems themselves. So yeah, just being involved with them and being Belfast based, obviously back home for you.
Absolutely. Listen, I feel it's the least I can do. You know what I mean? My sister is volunteered for Bernardo's for a long time. She was a social worker and now a professor. She's a hell of a woman, and she's always been keeping me up to date with who the best organisations are in Belfast, who are doing the very best to try and help the locale. So I've been donating to the Welcome Organisation for a long time, and this is the first time I've actually had a thought to try and help boost them as well. So West Wellbeing are doing an incredible job. Like, suicide is sadly is one of the especially in my kind of age group, it's a real massive problem in inner cities, especially Belfast. I got in touch with West Wellbeing through a friend of mine who's a Man United podcaster, Phil Brown, and I've been really loving what they've been doing there, because for a long time, especially in places like Belfast, people don't want to talk about mental health. People don't want to explore and improve mental health, and you find out that such and such has died. And I've been affected by people when I was a child, like people I went to school with, who took their own life, and then even recently, Lionheart in ICW over in Scotland, one of the best wrestlers in Scotland, made this decision himself, and it's sad, and sometimes we don't really understand the warning signs. So places like West Wellbeing are just trying to be an outreach for people, an avenue for people to explore, to try and prevent as best they can. And I'm just loving the work they're doing there, because they started with nothing, and support the community, and it's just got a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. So I want to do my very best to try and support them, because the option for people, people feel there are no options. Sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. But there are options, and there are people who care, and hopefully they can find places like West Wellbeing before it's too late.
You can't comprehend. Like, I've had issues years ago, but no suicidal thoughts, never. Like that was always asked when I was at appointments and stuff. For someone to act on it, that's the scariest thing of all, man. So I can't comprehend that. Having that thought to do that to yourself, and then secondly to go through it and do it. And I was reading about numbers in men. Obviously, it was 80% of men, and then the other 20% is women. Obviously, it's a big onus on men taking their own lives, isn't there? But there is 20% of women within the UK that are taking their lives as well. It's just so sad.
It is. It's incredibly sad. And listen, I hate saying it, but coming out of COVID, it's made things worse, not better, because it amplified problems that people maybe were having, because you had to isolate, you couldn't socialize, you couldn't go and do things, and you couldn't exercise. There was a bunch of things you couldn't do, so it's kind of amplified a lot of issues for people. And I'm hoping now we're a couple of years out, and now we're getting a bit better educated, that over the next 5-10 years those numbers can come down. But it's astonishing. I didn't realize it was as bad. That is the truth. And mental health is always kind of, it's sadly been shunned by the general media. and finally, it's something that people are starting to talk about more and things, and I'm hoping that it's because it's not a source of ridicule, and I live in America right now, and it's used as as a weakness and things like that, but in my opinion, it shows that you're stronger, that you're willing to work on yourself. People who aren't willing to work on themselves are weak. The people who are actively trying to work on their mental health, they're the strong ones.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. No, it's amazing the support you're giving these two charities. Just fantastic. As I say, that's where my nan's from Belfast. As I said to you off camera, that's where she was from. So, yeah, amazing work that they do. Amazing work. I'm going to move on now to football. Mad Dog Mike Angus has asked me to ask you about your beloved Manchester United. I'm going to put it on the thing on the bottom here now, obviously, and then I'm going to put a photo of more happier times for the Red Devils. Just a quick one. There you go. Yeah, Marcus Rashford, the man of the moment. What form he's in. Unbelievable. So I bet you're quite happy with the way it's going under Ten Hag.
Honestly, in Ten Hag we trust. Our ownership model has made incredible decisions over the last 10, 15 years. So they made a brilliant decision finally to bring in, an experienced, disciplined manager who's getting the very best out of his players. I'm not going to spend this entire time burying the Glazer family, but I will say it's been awesome this year. It's been phenomenal watching. Honestly, I woke up the other day. It was like a 9 in the morning show. I wake up about 2 hours nervous before the Leicester game, as always seems to be the way for me. We had a really poor first half. We make an important sub in Conchita Sancho, who's been dealing with his own mental health issues this last few months. He changes the game, and Marcus Rashford is just an outstanding player right now, in outstanding form. Bruno Fernandes, is finding those passes, and it's been brilliant to watch. We're in the media a lot right now because we might get taken over and whatever else. And I only hope that whatever happens, it's a better eventuality for everybody. But honestly, it's been phenomenal this season. From those two horrible defeats in the first part, where Brentford and Brighton. Was it Brighton? It was Brentford and it was Brentford and Brighton utterly destroyed us, and it's brilliant to see where we are now. 5 points off the top, comfortable in third. We're in every competition. We've got a cup final on Sunday. We just took Barcelona to task in the Nou Camp. Should have beat them. So yeah, it's been brilliant so far. And fingers crossed for if we can walk away with top four and one of the cup trophies would be an incredible season.
There's no messing from that man. Rashford being late in for training and he benched him.
Dropped him.
You haven't seen, your club haven't seen that from a manager since Fergie. I know Fergie set the bar many years ago.
Mourinho went about it the wrong way, where he would maybe dig out, players publicly instead of privately. So I feel like there was an element of discipline with Jose, but he just couldn't get it all right at the right time, if that makes sense. Whereas Ten Hag's went, well, I really like working with young talent. I really like developing young talent. So I'm gonna make them an image of myself, and that's what he's doing, And as you say, he dropped the most informed player on the planet right now, and it still works.
Sometimes you got to have that iron fist. I think the way he won't succumb to player power, because we hear about player power so much now. It's good. No, it's good to see. It's good to see from his side. But I wasn't happy when you knocked Everton out the cup a month or so ago. That was
he's got Sean Dyche now, so he's actually looking like a unit again.
More solid at the back, Damo. You know what I mean? Let's get back to basics. The only worry is goals. I worry when we go a goal down. That's where we're going to struggle. But 2 wins. Well,
that's where you're going to miss the Richarlisons and stuff like that. That was a massive loss. And Calvert-Lewin can't stay fit. Sadly, it's one of those. He's as good a striker as anybody, but they're useless if they can't play on the pitch.
I think it was 11. We've had 11 different scorers from our 17 league goals. So it just tells you everything, doesn't it? It tells you everything. I think it was a more logical choice getting Dyche in, because he's been in that conundrum many times with Burnley, hasn't he?
Well, I'm excited for him because this will be the first. Like people like to poo-poo Sean Dyche, but on a limited budget, he still had Burnley playing some decent football. And when he's against the bigger teams, yes, they're going to shut up shop. Yeah, of course they did, and they make it very difficult. And they might try and catch, and they did. They beat us, a couple of times before. So listen, I think with resources at Everton, he's got a huge chance. I mean that team there's not bad.
No,
you got a solid centre backs. You got a hell of a midfield. Like Onana he's got potential to be a world class player, in my opinion. So, and then he's got a couple of lads he's worked with before, like Dwight McNeil and stuff like that. So, and I love Gray. I think he's a brilliant player for you. You know what I mean? So.
I don't know what's going on there because he's not started him because a lot of people were calling for him to play up front because obviously Mopay just hasn't been doing it. Maybe Gray will get a chance. He's been playing McNeil. McNeil's in a bit better form now. But going back to Onana, he's got massive potential. He's a strong lad, box to box midfielder. And then
before it reminds me a little bit of Yaya, like a bit like Yaya Toure. He might not be as productive, like shooting wise, as Yaya, but like he looks like a nightmare to play against. And when it all clicks for him, jeepers, like the right partner beside him, and he'll be a megastar, I think.
Idrissa Gueye had a good game the other day, doing all the
finally.
He was brilliant. But I don't want to make this about Everton, so yeah. Do you think you can get to the title just to close out on Manchester United, go back to Manchester United?
So if the main problem one of the beauties of it being in third is 1 and 2 have to fight each other, and you never know, we could slip in. So it's like if City beat Arsenal again, then suddenly we're a lot closer to Arsenal than we'd ever expect to be. Arsenal haven't been in great form. City have been giving it the hokey cokey themselves, really. So you never know if we can stay consistent. Our main problem is our number one striker has been he's in Qatar now. Our number 2 striker has been injured. Or no, he's not in Qatar, he's in Saudi. So Ronaldo's in Saudi. Martial's been injured. So we've got a striker on loan from Burnley. He's doing well, but he's never going to score enough goals to take us to a certain point ourselves. We've got Rashford in incredible form. Casemiro's been a godsend. Thank you, Real. But we're still lacking up front. We're still, there are elements that you're like, well, can we keep this run going? If Rashford, misses 3 games, 5 games, will we score? So our luck could be if everybody gets fit all at the same time. But losing Eriksen has been a massive blow to us as well. But thankfully, it looks like Sabitzer's been an inspired loan move. But yeah, listen, if City manage to get a result at Arsenal, then we're super close. We're 3 points off City, same amount of games. Arsenal currently 5 points. They've got a game in hand, so you never know. I'd be delighted if we can get to the end of the season and we are super close, because then that would be all the confidence they need to, to invest a little bit and go again next year. So it's brilliant that we're in this position, because it wasn't long ago we were 30 points off the top. So.
Fantastic what he's done, man. And Martinez at the back for you. Very impressed.
The butcher.
Very impressed with him, Wasn't expecting him to take to it as quickly as he has. He's looked solid for you, in fairness.
I think everybody just looks at his height and thinks, he's too small. Well, you have to wonder, how did he get playing for a major team like Ajax, and Argentina? Even though he's small, he must be good at something. So, and he's proved that. And I think, he got the baptism of fire against Ivan Toney against Brentford. Yeah, he did. And since then, he's adapted. So, the Jamie Carragers of this world, can shove it up their arse.
And on that note, I'm going to move on to your time in WWE. I loved the faction sanity. I really, really did. I think when you got to the main roster, I think, there was momentum. There was momentum, but for whatever reason, they change things, don't they? The producers, the writers and stuff like that. But yeah, a fantastic stable with the 4 of you. Coming into NXT initially, formulating that Damo, because I bet it was amazing, bouncing ideas off one another and bouncing ideas off creative as well at the time.
So when I first came in, I wasn't meant to be Insanity. I replaced somebody who was injured. I was meant to debut in the first UK tournament. That was meant to be my very first foray. Only that sadly Sawyer Fulton got hurt, so they completely changed their plans. And I was in Insanity then, and walking into like that production with the amazing entrance and everything else, it was outrageous. You know what I mean? And then you're getting to work with Eric Young, who's an incredible mind for the business. 20 years television experience, and then I'm working with Axel Tischer, Alexander Wolf, who I'd met in Germany before. He gave me great advice leading up to one of my tryouts. So he gets signed just before me, and then obviously my wife is the other member of Sanity. So it was very cool, and we had the time of our life. NXT was a brilliant experience for us because at that point we would be taping 4 shows, in that one day, and Sanity was on every show, so like we'd be absolutely knackered by the end of the day, and like if one of the guys was injured or missed the show, like I would have to fill in or whatever. So there was one particular thing where I wrestled 3 or 4 times and did 2 appearances as well. So I remember like utterly collapsing after one of the days of filming. But like honestly, it was one of the best times of my life. And we had such a laugh. And then when we did move to the main roster and we're traveling together, we're literally seeing the world together. Like I've got great bonds with both Eric and Axel. They're great lads. And like Axel and I specifically we used to room together as well. So he's like my road wife is what we call each other. So and he was an absolute pleasure, and it's been brilliant, seeing him again, in the independents again, because we got the team together. We get to be on shows together. We traveled to Dubai together with Progress. Like Progress taking us to Dubai was one of the coolest experiences as an independent wrestler. But I got the room and I got to spend time with Axel as well, and it was awesome. So it was a lot of cool memories that we had, and we're creating new memories together. So it was very cool. It was awesome, and like we had a wonderful time. And the hope, my hope for this year is Axel and I team a little bit more. I think that's something we're going to try and do. We're going to do our very best to make that happen because love teaming with him. We've got great chemistry in ring, and like it gives us eventualities going forward because he's so talented in ring, and I think the UK is only really starting to see how good he is, because Progress have started using him more regularly. In my opinion, he's one of the best in Europe. So I think he can prove himself to be one of the best in the world over the next couple of years, and I'm hoping to, with the way things are planned for the next year or two, that he'll get that opportunity to showcase that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It'd be good to see you guys, as you say, get back together. You were fantastic. I loved it. I loved you guys, man. And then obviously, the main roster getting to SmackDown. Yeah, just I was expecting more, and it was looking really good, wasn't it? But things change. We know as fans.
They took Nikki out of the group. Vince didn't want Nikki in the group. He wanted his heels to be taking a beating. And like, what does the girl do when the boys are taking a beating? We can't have man and women violence. So he took Nikki out of the group. She stayed in NXT a bit longer. We went up. A really weird problem happened. Shinsuke Nakamura got bitten by a bomb dog. That's real. That happened. That changed Sanity's plans. We started on a loss, which wasn't meant to happen. And like everything that could have went wrong. It just happens every now and again. And sadly, we didn't quite recover from it. We ended up. We had a brilliant time in NXT. We didn't have a fantastic time on the main roster, but we got to travel the world together. We got to, we were wrestling Kofi Kingston the week before he won the world title. So like we were against New Day when they were at an incredible peak. We wrestled Daniel Bryan and Kane on television and all these other people. We had an incredible experience. It could have been better, sure, but like it could have been a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah. As you say, so much positives from that time as well. Yeah, and being at the premier organization, and on the weekly shows, just fantastic. Testament to you and them guys, man. And obviously Nikki's still doing very well. She's doing fantastic. So but it's nice for you seeing
She's the real talent out of all of us. She's she's the one. She was incredible at the chamber there. So
I still need to watch it. I've watched the main event. But I need to watch the rest of the matches. But yeah, I look forward to watching that, man. Absolutely. Now you went back to NXT with Spud Drake Maverick, and I've got to say, I loved it. I loved the comedic big man. You know, the very straight big man, and him. We know how good he is with comedy through TNA.
I just saw him for the first time there. We saw each other on Saturday for the first time in a couple of months, and he hasn't changed, and he still annoys me. You know, so what you saw on TV is exactly the same as how it is in real life. That relationship is really like this.
It's just amazing. And it used to crack me up every week. You know, the vignettes and that, and then him coming out all 100 mile an hour, you trying to calm it down, and you're this.
And then he started dressing as me and everything.
Yeah, it was just brilliant. It's just brilliant. It just shows how stuff works sometimes, doesn't it? It's great. It's great for us as viewers, and you're the home guys, so we all wanted you to do well. And it's just great fun. I love a bit of comedy in my wrestling. I do. I really do. Have them for years.
Oh, it's the 3-ring circus, isn't it? And that's. I think like people get bogged down about these things, oh, my character needs to be serious and blah, blah, blah. Honestly, like, it just needs to entertain. And like, I had the time of my life, so I'm glad other people enjoyed it. So he's, Spud's a hell of a, my God, Drake Maverick is a hell of a person outside the ring. So inside the ring, I'm glad it came off the way it does. So because, I'm doing my very best not to break most of the time when I'm around him, and he's putting such shift in. And then when push comes to shove, he's an incredible seller, and he can fight from underneath and stuff like that. So he is a great talent. Don't tell him, but he is a great talent. It was fun doing what we did, and I'm so glad that people enjoyed what we did because we had such a laugh. Like anything we could think, they would maybe present something to us. And like we would tweak it just slightly or we would tweak it a lot, and they always were very happy with how we changed it or tweaked it because they gave us enough freedom, they gave us enough rope because they thought we knew what we were doing. So a lot of those segments and stuff, we came up with ourselves or we tweaked and stuff like that, and that was more of a testament to Drake because I'm the straight man, that's easy for me to react to him. It's him who has to go to all that effort. So and he put in a hell of an effort, and we had such a laugh together. Like we really did.
Amazing. No, it's just great. When stuff like that comes together, I'm sure it's amazing for you to see, like watch it back as well. As much like I suppose in the moment you're doing it, but watching it after, man, I can only imagine you guys as talents, how amazing it is. And then the feedback from us guys, and the crowd, primarily when they're enjoying it.
Well, I think like they weren't sure how long they were going to do, Drake and I. So, but the crowd they just took this immediately. So you're like, oh, for God's sake, right? But honestly, like our main problem was we both got COVID at 2 different times. So it kind of derailed the 2 times we were actually in heavy stories. So, like that's just the bad timing of everything. I developed COVID. I think it was the end of October or whatever it was. And I was completely asymptomatic and I was very lucky. But we were in a really cool story at the time that sadly had to get binned. And then the same thing happened to him 2 months later. And like, if we'd have been luckier, where could it have led to? There was a couple of cool, irons in the fire, but we still had a wonderful time. And like, listen, like, for 2 lads from England and Ireland, that it was pretty cool to get an opportunity to perform with WWE television together. Like I'd known him for like 15 years or something. We met a long time ago, and not in a million years would I have thought 15 years later we'd be tag teaming together at WWE television.
It's just when you think about it, the length of time you've both been in the business, incredible. Just like has it gone fast for you that time? Has the time gone quick in some ways, maybe not in others, or?
It's really interesting you say that. Like I think once you hit a certain age, like everything does start speeding up almost. You know what I mean? Like this, it's hard to believe I've been in America for over 6 years, and like that is kind of mind blowing. 7 years, yeah, 7 years. So it's nearly 7 years. Sorry, which is mind blowing. There you go. I'm confused about it. The fact that it's been 7 years since I've performed in Cardiff. Like those things that kind of really, take me aback a little bit. In the moment, at the time, I'm sure like it feels like the best or the worst thing in the world. You know what I mean? But like it literally, it does. It flies by. And I'm very lucky, like relatively injury free. I've had a lot of like minor injuries. Yes, I've broke my heel and stupid stuff like that, but like I've generally been lucky with my injuries, so I haven't been on the shelf a lot. I never missed 1 week of WWE television through injury, which is when I think of how lucky I am, especially at my age and my size, 300 odd pounds at the time. I was very lucky. I'm very durable. Touch wood, that'll continue. So I think that's maybe why it flew. Whereas maybe if I was hurt, it would have dragged. So in that regard, I'm very lucky. It's one of those things when people do get hurt and stuff like that. It's normal in wrestling. It's a physical sport. It's the travel, everything else. So the fact that I've been relatively durable has been incredibly lucky, and it meant that I got to be there for some incredible things that happened in my career. It's funny, I was talking about COVID being the only thing that stopped me, which is, but it stopped a lot of people. It got everybody in the end, didn't it? So but yeah, honestly, like looking back, it was a lot of fun. Like I never. When I first got into wrestling, obviously my dream when I was 4 years old was to get a WWE. But as you get older, you start thinking, that gap is way too big, and be impossible. And eventually, I'm 16, 17 years old. I'm starting to search wrestling skills. I moved to Scotland. I started school. My goal is literally, okay, can I get on a show? Can I do this? The next goal is, okay, can I get kind of wrestle, once a month or whatever? Can I wrestle in different countries? Eventually it becomes a part-time job. You're like, okay, I'm wrestling like, twice a week, that's pretty good. Then eventually I'm like, okay, I'm now wrestling 5-6 days a week. I'm turning down work. This is now my job. You start thinking, okay, I want this to be my career. I want this to be, my life. And that's what happened. I'm flirting with all the top companies in the world. I get the WWE, and I suddenly I'm on WrestleMania. It's like my goal was never I'm going to get the WrestleMania. My goal was the next goal, the next little thing, this next little thing. Can I get here? Can I do this? Can I do that? Then eventually, boom, you're there. You're in front of 80,000 people. You're like, shit, this is pretty good. And that in itself, was amazing. And I got to, do things. I got to wrestle with people, and the realization, I think, was that gap that I thought existed, between us, on the independent scene in the smaller countries like Ireland, Scotland, England, compared to America. That gap wasn't as big as I thought. In fact, like I'll tell you now, that gap doesn't exist really. All the lads who I wrestle with in SmackDown were at the same level as me. You know what I mean? And that's amazing to think when I really get into the thought process. Obviously, very experienced. Some of them are I'm not diminishing them in any way. The point is, we were not on a substandard level. We were, just as every bit as good. And I think that's a European mentality that needs to change, and that we are as good as them. And it's something that, I notice it, when the likes of like Pete Dunne and stuff came in, he started to realize it too, and I got to see it with each people that come in. They're like, there's a belief that, the American wrestling, has been going longer than us, blah, blah, blah. And then you realize, no, actually, you're every bit as good, if not better, in a lot of cases, and I think WWE realized that too. My first 6 months there, they were very negative, I think, towards Europeans. Maybe not intentionally, but there is an element of xenophobia in America. There's no way to cover that up. They are. There's xenophobic people, and then when you get to 6 months in, the realization is, oh, holy shit, these guys are all really good, and our experience changed very quickly. Myself, Alistair Black, and everybody else. Like, suddenly we're on major parts of the card, in the major stories. And it's wonderful that that's, we were able to help change, a mindset, that European wrestling was just as good as American wrestling, you know what I mean? And there was, a lot more examples of that, my head's like fried this morning. So, but yeah, honestly, like, this past week of years has been absolutely incredible. The beauty of coming back now is I'm able to like help the next generation and let them know that they're just as good as the ones who are on TV. You know what I mean? Yes, there might be the lads in slightly better shape and stuff like that, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, Randy Orton is a god. You know what I mean? I'm the biggest Randy Orton mark on earth. I think he's outstanding. But there's no reason why any of these guys who I'm seeing in Progress, or I'm seeing in Rev Pro, seeing in OTT, there's no reason why they can't be wrestling against Randy Orton in the next couple of years. You know what I mean? And that is, it's important that people know that. It's important even that fans understand how good the talent is right now in Britain. And you should, I understand in 2014, 2015, like, you were seeing some incredible talents, on a regular basis. But this crop coming through right now are maybe better than that crop. They're just not as popular yet. But when they get to that level of popularity, you're going to look back on this generation and go, holy shit, they were good. Because I tell you, going from WWE, seeing the very best, I got to go to AEW last year. I've worked with New Japan last year. And then I get to work on the independents here. And I'm like, you know what? These guys are every bit as good. You know what I mean? And like, I don't want to gas them up too much. I don't want them to get bad attitudes. But I am trying to tell them, like, as much as possible, that they're just as good as what they're seeing on television, and they've got the potential to be better, and that is the truth. So I'm very excited for the future of European wrestling. I'm very excited for how they're going to infect television, on the major brands, whether it's Japan or America, over the next 10 years, because Britain's going to have that burst again. The talent's there, and it's very exciting.
Oh, great, Stephen. It's good from you, an elder statesman of the business, seeing these young. No, have I termed that? Did I term that wrong then?
Well, listen, I wrestled an 18-year-old the other week, and I'm wrestling RKJ, who's 23 years old. So I guess I am the elder statesman. You know what I mean?
What I meant to say was, maybe I could have worded it better. You can impart your wisdom. You can impart your wisdom to these younger guys. Get
experience. I love it.
Give them more self-belief than they've maybe got. I think that's what I take away from what you were saying there.
Absolutely. Listen, and I hope they do, because they're every bit as good. It needs to be said. Listen, WWE are going to come calling again, and I know they are. It's just the way it goes. It's the cycle. They came to all of us in 2015, 2016. And yes, it affected the scene pretty badly, but it was a testament to how good the scene was that so many of us ended up there. So listen, they're going to come calling again, whether it's this year, next year, or in 5 years, because this scene's going to prove it yet again, that there's incredible talent coming out of this, all these areas, whether it's Scotland, whether it's Ireland, whether it's England, whether it's Wales. There's a lot of talent coming out of here.
No, fantastic. Damo, we've got fan questions. We've had some on the chat. I've screen grabbed some other ones as well, which I'm going to read out to you. But I'm going to get the ones people have been watching live. So, yeah, there are questions here. I'm just going to have a little scan through. Yeah. So, Rick Houlihan is asking here, this is quality. That match will be too. I think he's alluding to. I think it's Ospreay or it's RKJ. It could possibly.
They're both going to be good. I'm not going to lie to you. We're going to put a hell of a shift in this weekend.
Absolutely. No, great comment, Rick. Rick's been over to WrestleManias and stuff, and his family are over in America. So I know, yeah, he's a big wrestling fan, is Rick. And he's a blue nose as well. He's Nevertonian.
L4.
And then Rick again. If Damo thinks he's nervous as a Man United fan, he should try being a toffee like us, Stu. So, yeah,
No, I understand that. But listen, you're on the way up again.
Hopefully they get it sorted. The board, they need to get people off the board. That's what they need to do. But, not too dissimilar to the Glazers. They need to sell
absolutely.
They need to sell
you guys are the same as us. You guys are the same as us. You spent money in the weirdest ways. and nothing to show for it. And that's United. Like we spent a ridiculous amount of money on guys who just weren't good enough, and Everton are the exact example.
Yeah, when you think about it, no, it is quite right. Lewis Young, he goes to a lot of ICW shows. He's from Falkirk. He trains up in Falkirk, actually. I think it's FWA in Falkirk.
FPWA with Andy Wilde, is it?
Yeah.
My local Scottish team was Pollock, which is a junior team. I used to live in Pollock Shaws, and I lived right beside the stadium, so they became my team. So
there you go. I know Lewis is hot on the Scottish scene, and obviously football. I know, yeah. And then he asks, "What is your favourite Damo versus Andy Wilde match?" There we go.
All right. So we did a 20-minute draw, I think, in Barrowlands. Andy's a cracking talent, and I see he's changed his attitude recently. He's now Andy Roberts, so I'm keeping an eye on Andy. Andy's a cracking talent, and he seems to have realised that he needs to start being a lot more selfish. So it's going to be very exciting to see what he's going to do next in ICW. So ICW again. Listen, one of those companies that's starting to come again. There's a bunch of great talent up there. Leighton Buzzard, I just wrestled him in Wolverhampton for OTT, and he's their champion right now. And there's something special there. There's Kez Evans and Daz Black, both incredible talents as well. Like in fact, KOE, the tag team. There's a whole bunch of them that are all really good. So ICW, Scotland was affected a little bit more by the pandemic, and there's a lot of stricter rules there. But I'm very excited to see how the Scottish scene comes in the next maybe the next 6 months to a year. So, but yeah, listen, Andy's one of those guys who was just as good as anybody. He maybe just didn't have the opportunities or the luck really. So getting to wrestle with him, he's fantastic. And we had a lot of fun together. We did a cage match and everything. He did a Vader bomb off the top of a cage on me. So I didn't like that part.
Oh, my days. Yeah, bet you didn't. Oh, my days. I've got Mike Angus. He left a comment yesterday when I posted on about the episode. You know, Mike, I know Mike very well. I've seen Mike today, actually. He's come over to Wales with his son. And, he's asking... He's got some great footage stories, Stu. He's saying for you, obviously, we spoke a bit about football, but he's also said, ask him about Maggot and Crowley dancing as well.
So we did this crazy 4-on-4 match, and it was like or was it 5-on-5? I think it was 5-on-5, but we did it like a game of fives. Like we chose who we were putting in the team and all. It was very funny. They did like a Champions League theme and all as we were lining up.
I've seen the video.
It was very honestly, there's things that they do, that just pops us because it's not necessarily planned. So Maggot and Crowley, I think it's the second time they've touched, maybe the first, I can't remember what it is, and immediately you're like, oh my god, these two, they're like two peas in a pod. Two young, charismatic talents who have a different philosophy than the rest of us. That's the most political way I can say. And fair play. I've heard that they might do some work together as a tag team, and that makes perfect sense because they're both batshit. And fair play, Crowley is the consummate entertainer, and Maggot is a very interesting man, shall we say. And they work very well together, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they have next.
Amazing. Now, my friend Samuel Knight, and he asks, can you ask Big Damo if he can do a DNA test and confirm that he is my long-lost ginger twin? And then he's extended off that. And also, if he'd like to form a tag team of Big Damo and Big Samo. And here's a photo of Samuel Knight. So, yeah, he's your long-lost twin, allegedly.
Where's the photo? He's not even ginger.
I don't know. He's saying he is. He reckons he is.
He must have dyed his beard or something there. But tell him to come back to me when he hasn't dyed his beard. You know what I mean? But it is an excellent beard. I will say it's an excellent beard.
I will pass that on to him. Chris Parkhurst over in the US. He's got connecting people through wrestling. He's got a great channel on YouTube, clips from the big events and stuff. He's got a big following actually on YouTube. I've got to be fair, it's not easy to do getting the followers and subscribers. And not so much a question, but he's just said, this is awesome. Can't wait to hear this one. I know he trained Nikki Cross. So yeah, extending off your good lady there. Just about Nikki.
She came, so we were friends. We met at a training school in 2008, and then whenever I started doing my own, she came and joined me because she had all this natural talent, but like, you know, the hardest part was, you know, having to like not be tough on her, but like to try and harness it. And you can see her on TV; she's nuts. You know what I mean? So that, a lot of that is true. So it's true to form, shall we say? So trying to harness, Nikki's ability has been hilarious. You know what I mean? It's like I imagine it would be like trying to herd sheep without a sheepdog. But she's awesome, and herself, Piper Niven, Joe Coffey, Mark Coffey, they all came through at the same time. Isla Dawn, even Keely Ray before that. Like, there was so many of them all came through around that same window. And you know what? Like, they're all now on NXT or they're on like Raw or whatever else. So it's very, very cool that Scotland is represented. And it's very cool that like this little school that I took over had that kind of success. But it's down. Listen, that's not down to me. That's down to them. Like, their hard work, because there was a lot of people that came through those doors, but they were the ones who had this drive, this determination to succeed. And Nikki and Piper, they're both on Raw right now. The Coffey brothers just killed it in NXT UK. Now they're going to be on NXT on a regular basis. Isla Dawn's just started there, and you've got, Kelly Ray is absolutely outstanding. You know what I mean? So, I'm just so proud for the Scottish scene, because like all of them like just decided, no, we're really good, and we're gonna do something with our careers. And all of them have. But yeah, when it comes to Nikki, like, Nikki's amazing. I don't have the superlatives to praise her. You know what I mean? Because she does stuff that I don't understand. Like, she's got a great connection with people that it comes from a real true part of her. And it's been awesome to see. And like, I personally, I adored the Nikki Ash character.
Absolutely.
I thought it was so much fun. Like, somebody trying to do like a character that would appeal to kids. But Vince turned her heel, and that's the end of that. But everybody has a different vision and everything else. But at the end of the day, she's back as Nikki Cross now. And I know that like they really appreciate the effort she puts into everything. Like, whether it's a writer, whether it's a producer, whether it's under or writers, anything. Like, everybody knows that Nikki gives 100%. And, that's maybe the best advice. If anybody ever wants advice, is go too far instead of not going far enough. The further you go means people only have to reel you back in. And I know that that's exactly what they do with Nikki. Is they're like, every now and again they're like, okay, Nikki, we need to reel you back, because the hardest part in wrestling is sometimes when you have to get something out of somebody, it doesn't feel natural. It's difficult. Whereas if you go all out, you know what I mean, then okay, the only thing you have to do is reel them back a bit. Because overcommitting works way better than undercommitting, and I know that. Having to grow my back hair out, and my hair out, and everything else. I could have been a cool guy, with stubble and my short spiky hair back in the day, but nobody wanted to see that. You know what I mean? Like, when I looked like a troll, suddenly people wanted to see Big Damo, and sadly I went bald. That was not the plan. But I know that was me overcommitting. I got to live out my dreams because I overcommitted. Nikki's the perfect example of somebody who overcommits at every possible opportunity, and they love her for it. Asuka's the same. There's a bunch who make every effort possible, and the reason why they're on television so regularly is because they're incredible at it, and the only thing you need to do is maybe every now and again say, okay, we're going to take that back a bit, which is, that's okay.
Absolutely. Damo, thanks for answering those questions. And yeah, thanks to the listeners, to the viewers for all the questions. I'm sure you appreciated them. Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. It's always fun to talk football as well, importantly. But listen, this next few months, whatever else, I'm going to do my very best to be back in all the home nations. So this weekend, as I said, Friday, I'm in Cardiff with Rev Pro. Saturday, I'm with OTT in Dublin. I haven't really talked too much about OTT today, but listen, OTT have been doing some serious business. In March, we're putting 2,000 people in the National Stadium, right in the centre of Dublin. I'm very excited for that. There's announcements today over the St. Patrick's Day weekend. I'll be there all 3 dates, the 17th, 18th, and 19th. We're in Wolverhampton, Dublin, and then we're in Belfast. And then this Sunday, I'm back with Progress. Looking forward to be defending my Atlas Championship against one of the very best up-and-comers, Ricky Knight Jr. Progress have been putting on incredible shows this past year. And I'm very excited for what they're about to announce for their future. And Progress have just decided to raise the bar. And that's exactly, what they're aiming to be the #1 promotion coming out of the UK right now. And you know what? It's very difficult to bet against them. And I'm excited to be there with Ricky Knight Jr. He's one of the utterly, he's one of the boys I've had an eye on for a long time. But when I wrestled him in OTT in Dublin, I realized this boy's the real deal. So I'm going to have to be at my very best on Sunday to make this defense. I've been in there against Japanese veterans. I've been in there against some of the up and comers of Britain, but this is maybe my biggest test to date, and I'm very excited for it. You know what? London, you're going to be in for a hell of a show. I promise you that.
I've just to go back to RKJ, his match with Ospreay for Rev Pro at York Hall. Oh my days! I know you got both of them, but them in together. Oh my day! I've heard all this buzz. I've had RKJ on the podcast actually 2 or 3 years ago, but just amazing. Just see.
Yeah.
And so young, Damo. That's the
I think he turns 23 this week or something like that. And I'm like, oh my god.
Where is he? Where's he going to go? In the subsequent...
Listen, he comes from great stock. His dad was an incredible wrestler. Uncle, incredible wrestler. Auntie, incredible wrestler. Yeah. Grandfather, grandmother. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily mean just because you come from a wrestling family that you're going to be a good wrestler. It doesn't always mean that. But it's proof that there's something in the water up there. And I know how hard he's working at. Listen, he's one of those guys who his brain just switches on. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. He talks to me as if he's 35. He doesn't talk to me like a 22-year-old. So I'm like, this fella he's just at a more advanced level in his brain than most people his age group are. But listen, it's a testament to him. It's a testament to so many of the younger talent coming through. That I wrestled Leon Slater there, a couple of months ago, and he's 18 years old, and he's outrageous, and that's pretty much like I could go through most of the Progress roster. They're all under 30 years old. They're all absolutely fantastic. Like Sunshine Machine and stuff like that. I knew from before when I was here 7-8 years ago, and now they're you can't miss a Sunshine Machine match. You know what I mean? Like us, Jim. They're a bunch of cunts, but they're awesome. You know what I mean? I don't want to say that they're awesome to them, but they are. And there's more that I'm completely underselling so many. And it's the same when I go to OTT or when I go to ICW. I'm just meeting so many incredible young talent right now. And listen, I have to step up every time I get in these in these matchups because I'm having to realize that these guys aren't slouches. They aren't weak. They aren't bad at what they do. If anything, they're incredible at what they do. And it's me who has to bring it to them. You know what I mean? That seems to be happening more often than not. I wrestled Luke Jacobs a bunch, and Luke he's 23 years old. He's 20, and he's utterly incredible at this. There's going to be a time in about 5 years' time where all these lads, are now hitting their mid-20s to late 20s, just like my batch of boys did, in 2014, 2015, 2016. And they're going to be better than us. They're going to be much better than us. And that because it took us all a long time. It took us 10 years to get good. Or maybe longer. It took us, a long time. These lads are going to get there faster than us, because they're learning from our mistakes. They've got the They've got the crowds, they've got the television experience, earlier than we have. So, it wouldn't surprise me if the next batch are laughably better than us, because, I'm seeing that talent so early. I'm seeing it now, and they're listening. They ask me, and I tell them, and they listen. So hopefully they can take, whatever I can give them and take it to the next level. You know what I mean? And it's awesome to see. And it's the proof is it's only going to get better. Like that's nuts to think. Nuts.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic and great for us as fans. I get bits. There's so much wrestling. I try and take bits from the different promotions, just so I give them all a watch. It's amazing from a fan perspective. It's great for us. You think years ago when we were kids, we had WWE, WCW, World of Sport wasn't a thing, was it? By then, coming into the early 90s. I got wrestler on S4C, Orig's promotion, but
hey, there were some incredible matches on those. I can tell you that. Oh my god!
Absolutely, Fit Finlay, Regal was there, wasn't he? The Bulldogs, everybody. At
Marty
the time.
Jones, even like
going further back.
He would get the lads over from Japan as well. Honestly, Orig put on some good shows. I can tell you that.
There's some gold on YouTube, like watching them matches back. There was a cage match. Finlay was in it. I'm trying to think. It's like I've never seen this before. It was like amazing to me just seeing it, more laterally. There we go, Damo. Before we close out, and I'll let you go. I just want to go back to the charities in Belfast, okay? Just to give them another bit of promotion, because they do great work.
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah. So honestly, the Welcome organisation is tackling homelessness like right now, and they've got a mobile clinic. They're doing so much work. Like I actually couldn't believe how much they're doing right now, and especially coming out of Christmas and everything else. They've done a hell of a job. So homelessbelfast.org. Any donation at all would be absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. And then there's West Wellbeing, mental health charity that very close to my own heart. The whole concept of suicide prevention and everything else. They're working so hard in the local community, and they're doing their very best all across Belfast. So not just the smaller communities, they're trying their very best to be there for everybody. And they're just getting so many people are coming to them now. They need help. They need all the help they can get. So any donation you can to West Wellbeing would be absolutely amazing. If there is anybody here from my city of Belfast who are watching today, please look up these two amazing charities. They're doing such incredible work. I can't fathom the job they're doing. You know what I mean? I can't talk about it enough. So they're two very worthy charities. Please get all about them as best you can. Whether it's £1, £10, £100, whatever you can do. Please donate. They're doing this outstanding work right now in our community, in our wee city. And if there's anybody here from other cities, please look out. There are brilliant organisations all across the UK, all across Europe, America, everything else. There are brilliant charities. That extra 5 minutes that you're not going to spend mindlessly surfing the internet. Go and look out for a local charity that you can connect with and help. Whether it's donating stuff that you don't need in your house, whether it's donating any excess income you have, or even donate your time. If you can donate a bit of your time, that would be amazing. As I get older, I'm starting to understand the importance of community, and that's something that my wife and I are starting to get very involved in. We're trying our best here in Orlando, and we're doing our very best. She helps a couple of charities in Glasgow as well, and I'm doing my very best to help the ones back home. I listen a lot to my sister. As I said, she's a professor there in one of the unis in Belfast, but she was a social worker before that. And she's seen the very worst of the worst. So I always listen out to what she's saying to try and help. And the Welcome Organisation and West Wellbeing are two fantastic charities, and I can only I can't talk highly enough of both of them.
Thank you for championing them. Thank you so much, man. And yeah, just people, I say it all the time. I put videos out across the board. I've been through it. I've been through it, Damo, myself years ago. Things got better gradually. But people need to talk, and I reiterate this to people. My private messenger is open to anyone. I get messages all the time. You don't realize what you're doing for people. it's if you can just help one person, you've done something right.
Exactly. No, and fair play. Thank you for highlighting that as well. Like, there's, I understand, like, everybody has their own, agendas and everything else, and their own things they want to support and whatever. So I really appreciate you first of all making the donation. I really appreciate that, and second of all for
not a problem, mate.
The two charities. Really appreciate
it. Suicide, obviously, I've never felt suicidal, but I understand from the mental health aspect, from the anxiety, depression side of it, which is part of it. I was in amongst it, and I was in a dark place for a long time. But with help, with therapy, I went to Mind actually at one point, and I've done group therapy and stuff. So I've been in there. So
That's awesome.
I'm not professional. I don't, profess to be professional, but I've had mental health.
Yeah, but you understand it. You
Absolutely.
understand it, and that's the most important thing. And the thing going forward is understanding is the only thing that's going to get us to another level. You know what I mean? It's only in the last few years that it's not being used as a source of ridicule in politics in Britain. You know what I mean? So, let alone the media and everything else. So, and that's only been in our lifetime. It's changed drastically in a short amount of in a couple of years. So, but it's not gone far enough. It's still got a long way to go. And you know yourself, like, there are brilliant places out there that support, but we need more, and we need to get more people educated on the importance of it.
There's not enough people in mental health. That's another topic for another day. We could extend off that, couldn't we? That's the big thing. I know people are waiting for appointments. It's so hard. You're in a battle. But once you get seen and you're in the system, it'll be dramatic how it can change you. And there's
been a couple of really good online movements where you can speak to different therapists online. Like, I'll do my research and I'll put some on my Twitter shortly, because there was definitely one I was looking at recently that a friend of mine used, and he was very happy with the results. Like, you can change your therapist if you don't vibe with them and stuff like that. So, so for people who are waiting for appointments, there might be quicker ways, or earlier solutions. You know what I mean? So there's always a with it. Hopefully, there'll be other opportunities for people to speak to the right person as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Damo. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on today. I know you're traveling over on Thursday, so you're back in the UK. Three shows. I had you down for 2. I apologise. That's my fault. I thought I'd done my research. But yeah, I bet you can't wait to come over. The current Progress Atlas champion, it is Big Damo, formerly Killian Dain in WWE, NXT. Long-time veteran pro wrestler. Thank you so much for coming on Stu's Wrestling Podcast today. Big Damo.
My pleasure, Stu. Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for writing in the questions. And thanks for watching us. We did our very best.
Absolutely.
Try not to stay on football for too long,
we got away from it. Then we could have done half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour on the football. Not a problem. Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. And yeah, safe trips, safe travels on Thursday, mate.
No worries. Thank you very much. And anybody want to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, it's @DamoMarkle. And I will post a lot of these tweets, whether it's the charities we were talking about, and I'll look into the charity. The mental health idea I was talking about, where you can maybe talk to therapists online, and I'll post that shortly as well. But I'll also be posting all about the wrestling and stuff like that as well. If you're in Cardiff, Dublin, or London this week, I'll do my very best to get out after the show, so you can come and say hi as well. We'll try to have a pint before I have to skedaddle.
I need to come to a show and have a pint with you at some point. We'll do that.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely.
We'll do that with Angus at some point. I promise you.
Oh, no, that's worse. That's worse. That'd be too many pints.
Right, take the mad dog out of it. Yeah, we'll take him out. No problem.
No, he's the best. Thank you, Stu. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Thank you.